Market has been bleeding out a little bit today, but I suspect we should get a Bitcoin bounce. So today I'm going to show you exactly where I'm looking for a fresh long on BTC, including some bounce zones on these altcoins that can probably take care of you guys this weekend. So let's go. Guys, and remember, as always, hit that like, hit the bell, and hit the subscribe. Now, the setups I'm going to give you should actually tide you over for this weekend. And just a note, this is a pre-record. It's coming out probably about an hour before you are watching this. So this could be really good timing here with the US Open around the corner to get into some of these setups. So let's get into things here. Banter bubbles, obviously, I mean, you can see it's red as hell at the moment. So Zcash, funnily enough, coming alive from our 300 entry zone over there. So nice little bounce, but all over pretty messy. And I must say, those head shorts that we took yesterday, 𝗏𝗏 and AVAX, absolutely smashing it at the moment. So hopefully serving you guys really, really well. So let's jump into BTC. Let's see what is going on right now. And in fact, before we jump into BTC, I just want to show you a little bit of the issues that we're having here in terms of news. So number one, we did see Cloudflare has been causing issues today, and obviously playing its part in some of the crypto exchanges. As you can see, there are a couple of issues there. And then there is a news event today that is coming out during the US market. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one. We often get this news before the US market opens. So it's definitely going to be a spicy day today. And you can see this is core PCE price index coming out, and the forecast is 0.2. If this gets messy, and if this gets ugly, we're probably going to have a situation where altcoins and BTC drop to lower levels. But if the sell-off is telling me something, it is that this should come out relatively flat. And according to the lower time frame oscillators, we should be getting some kind of bounce here out of the market. So let's plan for that. Let's make an assumption that the news should be relatively okay. And we are going to give you some backup areas as well in case it is a little bit messy. So right now you can see BTC on the 2 hour, it's pretty much finally playing out now. Yesterday on the show, I was covering a move to this local bull zone. Now, this is quite an important area, and it's not an area to get into a panic just yet. Now, the current situation is, you can see we are dropping into the horizontals, we are dropping into the 90K, we are dropping into the VWAP. So 90,000 for me is the first port of call. And then even we can push this thing down, even into this 89K region, something like that, and we could still have a reasonable bounce in the market. You can see I've got a little bit of confluence here as well in terms of horizontals. So a 90K to 89K looks pretty decent to me. Now, one of the things that I'm watching very closely, and obviously the more we wait, it becomes slightly more of a guessing game. But in terms of the 2 hour oscillator, we are getting incredibly close now to some kind of reversal. And just a note, the last time we did get a decent reversal on the 2 hour oscillator, we did get a nice move on BTC. So I've got one eye on this. The minute we see a nice reversal indication here on that 2 hour, and the minute we can tie it in with one of these good zones on BTC, we should then be looking for that bounce, and we're going to look for corresponding bounces on some of these altcoins. So just in terms of the bull zone, my preferred area 90 to 89, I am looking to be long in that area. Now, what if the news is bad? What if things get really ugly? Then I want you guys just to pull out your 618, your 786s, and you can identify a couple of levels here to the downside. So a little bit lower here, 87, 760 makes sense as a potential bounce zone, and then 86K. Now, these are going to most likely get tied into some kind of 2 hour reversal, which you can see is around the corner. So those are going to be your backup zones, and again, corresponding levels there for your altcoins as well. Now, we're going to jump into quite a few alts. I just want to cover an important factor here for us is obviously Bitcoin dominance. And you can see this thing is nice and red, which means these alts are trying to hold their levels at the moment. And we got to keep our eyes on this thing, because if we're going to get a bounce in BTC, you might find, for example, that this dominance starts moving up and BTC obviously starts outperforming. The issue is here is if BTC starts losing that bull zone and we get a bounce now on Bitcoin dominance, that could signify a little bit of trouble for these altcoins, and that is where these backup levels are going to come for you guys. Now, what I'm going to show you here in the next couple of charts is multiple alts. I've got ETH I've got 𝗏𝗨, I've got 𝗬𝗰, I've got AVAX, I've got one or two others, Brett and Peppy. They are moving into potential bounce zones. So I just want to just clarify with you guys here. We're looking at 1 hour and 2 hour reversals, which could be short-term moves to the upside. The 4-hour oscillator is in fact still looking a little bit bearish. So it's going to have to take quite a big pump on the 2 hour or the 1 hour time frame to really start pushing that 4 hour back up. But right now, the trend on the 4 hour is not looking amazing. So if we do get some bounces here, we are just going to potentially look to sell some of them. And I do have a couple of short options for you guys with that as well. Okay, so there's your picture on BTC dominance. And let's just touch on the shitcoin casino from yesterday. So yesterday, I was tracking the 4-hour RSI heat map for you guys, and I gave you a setup on Sky AI, which actually turned out to be an absolute banger. Oh, you can hear there's something going on here on my BitGet at the moment. So in terms of the 4-hour heat map at the moment, we can see there's a token here called 𝗏𝗵 that is starting to come out of its shell, and I'm tracking this one today for you because I think you might get a short setup at quite a nice high conviction zone. Now, just to recap on the Sky from yesterday, it moved straight into my major macro zone. It was the 200-day MA, it was the macro 382, and look at that beautiful rejection there. They did 20% for us there on that rejection off that 200-day MA. Just remember the rules here, guys. You play small position, very wide stops, and you don't overdo the leverage because these things can obviously pump pretty hard. Now, in terms of the 𝗏𝗵, you might have to wait a little bit of a while, but you can see if there is a bit of a pump here, 261, this is looking like a fair short zone for me. So 261 into even 28 could be an interesting zone there for you guys. So there's something you can watch this weekend. Just get your alarms on in that area. If you get a pump or further pump on the 𝗏𝗵, that could be your 20-30% banger short on this guy. Okay, so get that one, but that's for the degens, obviously. And then guys, also we need to deal with this. Can you stop sitting in front of these 1 minute charts? I'm going to give you 1 hour and 2 hour charts. We're going to keep it less degen here today and try and really focus on some important zones here and try and get some solid moves. So the reason for me that ETH seems to be holding up so well, or maybe we can just imagine it is, but this Tom Lee just keeps buying some more. Look at this. He's bought another $130 million, and that is obviously explaining why ETH has managed to hold up so nicely. But the big test for us today has got to be this 50-week moving average. You can see this red line over here. That is the big one that we've broken through. And in a perfect world, we want to retest that. We just want to kiss this area here and then pop back through the upside. Now, I don't really mind a 1 hour candle close or a 2 hour candle close underneath that, but I think it could probably get messy if we close the daily under that 50-week. It might tell us that we could be in a bit of a bearish situation. So we've got to monitor this one accordingly. Wow, I mean, my stuff's going mad here. And in terms of the 2 hour, you can see we are not quite there on ETH. It appears to be, even 4 to 6 hours away potentially from some kind of decent reversal. So what you need to do is really just pay attention to some of these big zones here. 3,000 looks decent to me. You can see our bull zone is 3,040 into 2,970. That is going to be the main zone that I'm looking for a bounce. If there is a big sell-off in the market, I just want to highlight this to you guys. This undercarriage or the inverse undercarriage over here and the 786 is most likely going to be your next big banger. So 2,820, guys. If the market capitulates today, that looks like a pretty decent zone to me for some kind of short-term bounce on ETH. Okay, so you've got your bull zone. We know the 3K level to say 2,960, somewhere in that area. We are looking for a bounce in a perfect world. If we do collapse now this weekend, 2,828 looks like a zone to me, and that area should give us some kind of bounce on that 2 hour as well. And then we're going to look for a move. Now, obviously, we can't decide how big the bounce is going to be, but with the information I gave you just now, we obviously understand that the 4 hour is still a little bit bearish. So we got to keep one eye on that. Now, in terms of the positions that I've got running here, I'm still hedging pretty strongly at the moment. And you can see that AVAX short from yesterday is really starting to pump now. And I've started sniffing into an AVAX long. And I'm going to show you the chart now. I'm looking for a short-term bounce on AVAX. But in terms of the entry on that short that we are running at the moment, I literally cannot see a reason to close it. So for me, it really is going to be an opportunity just to add to the short. So any bounces we get we can actually add fuel to that short and possibly send it lower until that 4-hour oscillator starts reversing for us. You can see I'm still sitting in an ETH long, and I've got an ETH short running as the hedge play. And you can see we're bleeding a little bit here on BTC. And I've got, where's my Brett here at the moment? I've got Brett somewhere here cooking for us. There's Brett. And I've jumped into a Brett bounce long. You can see the Brett short that I gave you yesterday has printed now. We are now moving into the Brett potential bounce zone. So I'm going to cover all of this for you guys. And you're going to hopefully have a nice understanding this weekend as to the zones that we can play in. So here is Sol at the moment. And this is our local bull zone at 134. This is the bottom of our local bull zone. So this is obviously typically a zone we don't want to lose. I don't really want to see these horizontals get taken out, but we are obviously at the mercy of BTC at the moment, and we're going to have to play it accordingly. Now, typically, I like the bull zone because quite often it can give you a new high. If we start dropping into levels like the 618, we start dropping into 786s, we are going to possibly find ourselves in a situation where we are printing lower highs and we are dropping even further down. So again, I'm reiterating here, possible short-term bounces. It could literally be 2 or 3%. If we get lucky, maybe they're going to push it maybe 5 to 7% on some of these alts, but that is technically how I'm planning at the moment. I am looking for lower highs on any bounces. Okay, so bounce zone for Sol number 1 is 135 into 134. Bounce zone for Sol number 2 is 132, and hopefully by then we are going to get our reversal. Look at that. You can see we are pretty close to some kind of reversal here on the 2-hour and possible light at the end of the tunnel. Let's just hope it is not a freight train. Okay, so looking for that. I'm obviously trying to scale into a couple of bounce plays, and I'm going to show you on the hype chart how you can build a short position. Now, you know, guys, typically I like to short when things are nice and green, and I like to look for longs when things are nice and red. Now, obviously, you can long at resistance and get a breakout, and you can short on support and get the breakdown. But for me, I try and steer away from those things. So we've nailed some big shorts yesterday. Now we are enjoying those profits. And now for me, I am looking for these reversals. But if we get a nice bounce now on the market, I'm going to show you on the hype chart exactly how you can plan your possible short to send this thing lower if we do get a short-term bounce in the market. Okay, so let's look at 𝗬𝗎 here. And in terms of 𝗬𝗎, there's been obviously some bullish news around it over the last couple of days, but it hasn't been enough to hold it up. And I've got pretty much the same picture for you guys at the moment. This 2-hour is getting slightly oversold now, and we are possibly moving into a zone where we could get some kind of relief rally. Now, again, my ideal zone is always the bull zone. And for me, the bull zone is VWAP 382.5. So these two areas are as follows: 1.6 into 1.54. I am looking for some kind of 2-hour bounce in this region. Okay, so if this area doesn't hold, and I've been adding a little bit to my 𝗬𝗎 long here, if that area doesn't hold for us, then we are possibly looking at that 154 for the next bounce. Now, if we have a scenario once again where the wheels start coming off, guys, you need a backup plan, you need a backup zone, and that for me is going to be the 1488. But in terms of where we are right now, I am sitting in a 𝗬𝗎 bounce long. I am looking for a short-term move to the upside. And just a note here, if you do get a short-term pump in the market, you can simply just follow your VWAP and you can track your bear zone. And what is your bear zone? Your bear zone is you're pulling your fibs from the highs to your local low, you're banging out your VWAP, and you're looking for a 382 and a 0.5 fib. You pump into those zones. Those are generally bearish. Okay, so you can look to possibly short those types of areas on any next pumps in the market. Okay, so in terms of 𝗬𝗎 right now, as things stand, if we do get a short-term bounce, you might see a rejection around 1.68, and then you might see further downside on this thing. Okay, so remember, these charts will go into the Chart Hackers Discord. So all the Chart Hackers Discord members, you'll have access to these charts as well in the Discord waiting there for you guys. Now, that is the current 𝗬𝗎 situation. Again, you can see we're pretty close to some kind of reversal here on a lot of these altcoins, and it looks even better on the 1 hour in terms of some kind of short-term bounce. Now, let's talk when entry. This is obviously a really nice channel in the Discord. It's in my channel, and every day after every show, I give you guys a high conviction play in terms of what I think could play out for you guys in terms of longs and shorts and whatever. And obviously, this hype, we hit the zone yesterday, and we've actually gone through. So I'm going to show you a new setup for Hype at the moment. And then obviously this AVAX has turned into an absolute banger. We've now hit TP3 on this AVAX, guys. So let's just recap where we are at the moment. You can see AVAX dropping into TP3. This is the max TP that I actually gave in that when entry channel. And we're looking at a bounce here, 13.5, even a little wick lower. And you can see on the downside here, look at this, we are getting super close to some kind of reversal on our oscillator. Look at that, they are highlighting it here at the moment. You can see that heavily oversold situation there at the bottom. So in terms of AVAX, I am nibbling at a long now. I am looking for a short-term bounce. Even if they come and do something like this, I am looking for a bounce. And you know, we're going to have to measure how high this can go. And like I explained before, you're just going to bang out your VWAP over there from the highs, and you can use that as your possible add zone. Anyone who wants to add to the short, and you can just start sending this thing lower down, because I want to show you the 4 hour on a lot of these tokens not looking sexy. Okay, you can see this thing here, and this 4 hour, I mean, if this 4 hour carries on going down, we're probably going to go even to range lows on some of these altcoins. So just remember, short-term bounces potentially today. Overall, that 4 hour is not looking that good to me at the moment. Okay, so AVAX short-term longs around about 13.5. If that area fails, I've written here on the chart, we've got a strong chance there's a bullish divergence bounce at 13. So get your alarms on. Look how nice this area is. You know how I talk about undercarriages. You know how I talk about 786s. And I want to flip this over for you guys and just show you that if this was a pump, we'd be looking for big shorts up there at 13. So if 13.5 fails, then we're looking at 13 for the next bounce. Let's flip that one back over, and then you can see there it is for you. Okay, so there's your nice picture as to how you guys can play that. Now, I am going to cover 𝗵𝗵𝗿. I am going to cover Brett for you guys. They are coming up next. And I've got Hype. I've also got 𝗏𝑠. I've got a nice setup cooking for you at the moment on 𝗏𝑠. But I just wanted to remind you guys two things. We've got 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 again on Sunday, and I'm putting 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 up against Alex again from Chart Prime. And I'm going to pull out one of our Chart Hackers community members who's going to come and try and take them on for a bounty. There's also going to be a prize for the overall winner as well of $5,000 for that 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So make sure you don't miss that. That is going to be on the Crypto Banter main channel on Sunday at around about 5 p.m. SAST. Now, in terms of that, you guys know that DJ Dave has won 4 out of 5 scalping sessions on the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. And I want to show you guys there is an opportunity to learn a little bit from myself and Dave coming up in 4 days. So on the 9th of December, myself and Dave are going to do a workshop for you guys on Zoom. And what you need to do is just be ready to go, be ready to start scalping. And you can go into the show description here. You can click on claim my spot, and you are simply going to sign up with the 2bit link, either in the show description or an existing Banter 2bit link. You can see I've already loaded my 2bit account here. I've got my $100 in. You need $100, and you're going to get invited to that Zoom, and you're going to come scalping with us. And Dave is going to share a couple of tips and tricks for you guys, how he goes about scalping, how he selects his tokens. Maybe he's watching a certain indicator that gives him some stuff. So you're going to get that secret sauce, and you're going to start understanding why he can consistently win in these scalping competitions. So it's going to be a great one, guys. Make sure you are signed up and you are ready to go. So that is on the 9th of December. And remember, everything I talk about here is always in the show description for you guys. So just go under the show, click on more, and you're going to see the link for all of these things waiting here for you guys. There's the workshop link at the top. And don't forget 𝗘𝘅𝗃. We've actually launched 𝗘𝘅𝗃 markets here for you guys. So we can take positions on politics, we can take positions on Taylor Swift, we can take positions on crypto stuff, and even sports if we want to. Okay, so you can get stuck into that stuff, but everything I cover here is in the show description for you guys. All right, now let's get into Hype. I did tell you guys that I was pretty interested in building 2 scenarios for you guys here, and you can see Hype is already losing our 618. This thing is looking under a little bit of pressure. So what I want to give you guys is the 2 opportunities here. Now, obviously you can play the breakdown shorts. It's not my favorite thing, but if you are going to play a breakdown short, what you need to do, or a nice strategy that could work for you, is use the 1 hour breakdown candle. So if you get a 1 hour breakdown candle, use the top of that candle as your exit play. If you close above that candle, then it's maybe going to pump again. So a breakdown short, 1 hour breakdown, stop above that 1 hour candle should be okay if there is going to be more downward momentum in the market. So you can see right now, Hype is squeezing a little bit lower. And what I've got here on the 1 hour is an indication that we could be around the corner from some kind of relief rally. You can see I've got these two little snake eyes here waiting for us on the 2 hour. And I just want to highlight this next box for you in case we do drop lower. That next zone is going to be 30.65. So I am looking for a reversal there. Let's look at the 2 hour here quickly. And you can see this 2 hour is also getting heavily overcooked. I am expecting some kind of snapback bounce on these tokens, even if it is a short-term move to the upside. Now, what do we do if we get a nice bounce? How do we deal with it? Well, keep it really simple, guys. And what I want to show you here is bang out your fibs from the highs. So again, you take your fib, you go from the highs to the lows, okay, wherever the token bounces eventually. Now, we don't know obviously where this thing's gonna where it's gonna bounce, but when it does bounce, you're gonna drag your fibs down and you're gonna track your bear zone. Now, your bear zone is your 382 and your 0.5 and your VWAP. So you just want to get these two together for you. Let's just highlight that 0.5 as well in that area. There it is. Okay, so there's your bear zone already. You can see where it is. And if the market gives us some kind of energetic bounce now during the course of the day or during the course of the weekend, what you can look for then is a push to the upside. And you're going to then look for a nice short in the bear zone. Okay, so keep it really simple here. And that current zone, as where we stand right now, is going to be 33 into 33.7. But remember, what you need to do is track this down until it bounces. Once it bounces, then you're going to get a guide as to where your bear zone is. Okay, so you're going to look for that 382 into the 0.5 if we get a nice strong bounce this weekend. Okay, so look out for that, guys. I'll leave this chart in the Discord for you, and then you'll see how you can map this out and build your easy short zones in the same way that we build these long zones. Now, here is another one I'm tracking, and this is H-bar looking absolutely miserable on the 2 hour. And you can see we are pretty close to printing some kind of bullish divergence. So if H-bar does bounce off this 0.134 zone, I'm expecting a divergence print here and then a short-term move to the upside. Again, it doesn't have to be a big move. We could get a few percent out of this, but right now you can see why this area is very interesting to me, guys. 0.134, 0.135. Look for a bounce here, and I would say protect yourself. Maybe a 2 to 3% stop in that area should tide you over if things get super bearish. Okay, but that looks pretty decent to me. And then in terms of targets, guys, keep it simple. Create your bear zone, drop it at the top there, bang. And then you are looking for your potential upside targets for later on this week if we do get a nice bounce. Okay, remember, there's always a possibility that things get ugly. And that is why you guys need to protect yourselves, either hedging with shorts that you can see we are doing regularly on the show, or alternatively, protect yourselves with good stops and just do them in reasonable areas. Don't have super tight stops that put you under pressure. Rather make it wider and rather have a smaller position size. That is normally the safest way that you can go about these things if you are looking for reversals. Okay, so there's H-bar. And then I just want to touch on the twins here, 𝗵𝗵𝗵 and Brett. We have a beautiful short on 𝗵𝗵𝗵. Is it time for a bounce? We're moving into our first bull zone here. Okay, so I'm going to have a go here on 𝗵𝗵𝗵 454 into 444. I did speak about this on a short that I dropped as well on Instagram yesterday. This is a zone we were waiting for. This thing has now finally rolled over. And I just want to show you guys again, look at that bearish divergence here. When you see that type of bearish divergence at a big resistance zone, balance of probabilities tells you this stuff is going to roll over. And now we are moving into a potential bounce zone. So just look out here. 𝗵𝗵𝗵 could be something for you. 454 into 444. If the trade fails, okay, what is your plan if the trade fails? Guys, for me, I'd say sit back and wait. This candle doesn't look good to me. So if things do get ugly, you might be buying 𝗵𝗵𝗵 at around about 41 again. Okay, so look out there. 41 is a possible next zone if the wheels come off here and things get a little bit ugly. And then in terms of Brett, guys, here we are. Got that short there over the last couple of days, and it looks exactly the same as 𝗵𝗵𝗵. Okay, so in terms of a long zone, I've started a Brett bounce. I'm looking for a bounce on Brett. You can see 1784, even down to 0.17. And possibly give you a bounce there on Brett. So 1784 into 17. If that fails, guys, you can see this candle. It's the same across the board on all of these altcoins. It looks disgusting. And what you're going to do is then you're going to look for that bounce at that next level. Okay, so your next bounce will then be around 1566. So try and avoid playing games in between this. try and stay away from trades in that zone. Wait till it hits this bottom region and then try again, especially if it happens in the next couple of hours. Okay, so guys, yeah, play safe out there. Obviously, this weekend's going to be super interesting, and I'll see you guys on the Banter Royale that is coming on Sunday. We'll recap a lot of these tokens. Obviously, Chart Hackers, guys, we got the Sunday banger coming up for the Chart Hackers members. So we'll see you guys there. Catch you later.